5:50 left to play in the third period. The New York Giants 2nd and 7 from their 43. Again, Johnson, 45, 50, 45, down to the 40 to the 38-yard line before Charlie Waters made the stop.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video, and welcome to the Gridiron. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone out there who's been watching my videos. Thank you. If you can maybe give this video a thumbs up or possibly leave a comment below or maybe even share this video, it would mean so much to me. But anyway, just thank you so much for just taking time out of your day to check out this video. Thank you. Well, the New York Giants. I'm still keeping an eye out on the home front to see if anything's going on, any like major news stories at all or anything. If I see any, like an intriguing article, I'll go over it. You know, maybe I'll do a video on it, but I just haven't seen much. Today is July 6th, so the 13 days, okay, the rookies will be showing up, and then I believe it's 8 days later, I think it's the 27th of July, that's when the veterans have to show up, and everything just going to start rolling from there. I got training camp, preseason games, regular season. I don't know about let's see about the playoffs with the Giants, but we'll have a lot to talk about once, like 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, and it all starts, guys. Whew. So until then, pretty much, I'll be going to keep doing my little season series here. And right now, we're up to the 1946 NFL season, which just happens to be the 22nd season in the history of the New York Giants. Giants, 1945, they took a little step back. They had a bad season. They had a losing season, which is rather odd for them. First 22 seasons, from 1925 to 1946, all right, they only had 4 losing seasons. 1945 was one of those 4 years they had losing seasons. But this year, all right, they got back to their winning ways. They were first place. They went to the championship game. They didn't win the championship game, but they got to the championship game. But you're going to start seeing a little changing of the guards here, okay? The championship game started in 1933. So from 1933 to 1946, all right, the first 14 seasons, right, in the Eastern Division, the Giants went to 8 championship games. The Redskins went to 6. So it was either the Giants or the Redskins went to the first 14 championship games, right? But you're going to notice a little changing of the guards here. The next 3 seasons, all right, the Eagles, because last year the Eagles were in second place. This year the Eagles were in 1946. The Eagles were in second place. But the next 3 seasons, 47, 48, 49, the Eagles win. Right? They go to the championship game. Then after that, the Cleveland Browns enter the NFL. And from 1950 to 1955, the Browns go 6 straight years. So the next, after this season, the Giants are going to take a little step back. All right. The next 9 seasons after this, either the Eagles or the Browns go to the championship. So after the 46th season, the Giants don't go back to the championship game until 1956. But once 56 hits, that's a memorable time in Giants history. All right, you got between 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. In those 8 years, the Giants go to 6 championship games in 8 years. Unfortunately, they only win 1 of those 6 games, but they're wonderful teams, wonderful players, good coaching. Vince Lombardi is there as the offensive coordinator. Tom Landry is there as a defensive coordinator. So, I mean, they got some good coaching, really good players, and some good times ahead. But from 1947 to 1955, the Giants don't make any championship games anyway. But let's talk about 1946. All right, so the Giants had a very, very good season. They recovered from 1945 when they had a losing record. Right, they got back to their winning ways, and they made it to the championship game. So let's take a deep dive, shall we, into the 1946 season of the New York Giants, which just happened to be the 22nd season in the history of the New York Giants. All right, the New York Giants, 1946 New York Giants season. Here we go. Let's start her off here. The 1946 New York Giants season was the franchise's 22nd season in the National Football League. It was also the 27th season period in the history of the NFL. And you notice here, all right, you got the standings. But, they lost to 3 very good teams, okay? They lost to the Redskins, all right, who are, were 5-5, but the Redskins are usually a very good team. And they lost on the road to the Redskins. They also lost on the road to the Eagles, who were in second place. They said starting next season, the next 3 seasons, the Eagles win the division every year. So, and then the Rams, who were the Cleveland Rams in 1945, now 1946, they're the Los Angeles Rams. And I'll show you here. Now you'll notice that how everything is all kind of conglomerated in the northeast corner, and then you'll see the Rams all the way out on the west coast here in the map. You see right here? So you got the Packers, the Lions, the Bears, the Cardinals, Steelers, Redskins, the Giants, the Eagles, and the Boston Yanks all here. And then way out there, you got the Los Angeles Rams. But they kind of paved the way. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers will be in the All-American Football Conference, the San Francisco 49ers in 1946. They started playing out there as well, too. And they'll be joining the NFL. They'll be, once the All-American Football Conference disbands after the 1949 season, the 49ers joined the NFL in 1950. So, but I mean, all in all, this wound up being a kind of a crucial game here, and the Giants came home and they beat the Redskins 31-0. So, yes, I mean, all in all, they wound up with a very, very good, very, very good season. Their defense was still a little sketchy. I mean, 1944, the Giants had a phenomenal defense. They had 5 shutouts. They played 10 games. They had 5 shutouts. 1945, the Giants defense was took a 180. They're absolutely horrible. You'll notice here, too, I mean, they gave up 14, 24, 24, 24, 17, 28, 31. I mean, they gave up some points. Then in the championship game, they gave up 24. That's a bit much, I mean, to be given up. But the Giants, you'll notice they scored some points. All right. In the past 1945, they had a losing record. They didn't exactly score. They had a hard time running the ball. But let me say, you'll notice here they scored 31 and 21, 28, 45, 14, 14, 28, 14, 17, 17. So they were able to score some points. But just unfortunately, when it got to the championship game, they wound up losing 24-14. As I said, down here, the last year, 1945, the Eagles were in second place. Okay, the Redskins won the division in 1945, right? But they fell back to earth a little bit. Okay, and then the Boston Yanks were still 2-8-1. All right, so we got the 1946 NFL season. All right, the 1946 NFL season was the 27th regular season in the history of the National Football League. Before the season, Elmer Layden resigned as the NFL commissioner, and Bert Bell, co-founder of the Philadelphia Eagles, replaced him. Meanwhile, the All-American Football Conference was formed to rival the NFL. And the Rams became the first NFL team based on the West Coast after they relocated from Cleveland, Ohio. They moved to Los Angeles, California. A regular season game was played on Tuesday, the last until the 2010 NFL season on October 1st between New York and Boston. On a Tuesday. Wow. The season ended when the Chicago Bears played the New York Giants in the NFL championship game. The Giants went to the first 8 championship games. They were 2-6. I mean, they did not do well in the championship games at all. All right. The 1946 NFL Draft was held on January 14, 1946 at New York's Commodore Hotel. With the first pick, the Boston Yanks selected quarterback Frank Dantzowitz from the University of Notre Dame. And we have major rule changes. The forward pass that strikes the goalpost is automatically ruled incomplete. That was because in the 1945 championship game, Sammy Bohr dropped back the pass, standing in his own end zone, threw the ball. I even heard a gust of wind took the ball and blew it and hit the uprights, and it bounced back into their own end zone. And at the time, those rules declared the ball was automatically a safety, which gave the Cleveland Rams 2 points. Well, at the end of the game, the end of the championship game, the Cleveland Rams won 15-14. They won by 1 point. So if this rule was in place where forward pass strikes is automatically ruled incomplete, the Rams don't get those 2 points, and possibly the Rams don't win the championship game. This is sometimes known as the Sammy Baugh, because he's the one who was in the end zone for the Redskins who threw the pass that hit the uprights and the ball back again for safety. And Marshall rule after Washington Redskins quarterback Sammy Baugh and team owner George Preston Marshall. In the previous year's championship game, the Rams scored a safety when Baugh, attempting a pass from his own end zone, hit the goalpost. The 2 points were provided the margin of victory as the Rams won the game and the championship 15-14, while Marshall was so outraged at the outcome that he was a major force in passing this rule change. The free substitution rule was repealed, and substitutions were limited to no more than 3 players at a time. Well, I mean, that's fair. The receiving team is permitted to return punts and missed field goal attempts from beyond their own goal line. The penalty for an invalid fair catch signal is 5 yards from the spot of the signal. A fair catch signal is valid when it is made while the ball is in flight. All right, then we have, some the division races here, and the one in the Eastern Division was close, a little exciting. In the Eastern Division, the Giants, Eagles, and Steelers all had 4-2 records in Week 7 of an 11-week season. While in the Western Division, the Bears' 10-7 win over the Packers on November 3rd put them in a game ahead of the Rams. Because remember, the Rams were a good team. As I said, the year before they won the championship, so they were a good team. In Week 8, the Giants beat the Eagles 45-17. The Steelers lost to the Lions 17-7, and the Bears beat the Rams 27-21 to widen their lead. Week 9 saw the Giants tie with Boston 28-28, putting them at 5-2-1, while the Steelers beat the Eagles 10-7 to be a half game behind at 5-3-1. The two teams met in New York in Week 10, and the Giants' 7-0 win put them in front again. The final week of the season had the 6-3-1 Giants hosting the 5-4-1 Redskins. Now, this is where it gets interesting. A Washington win would have given them both 6-4-1 records and forced a playoff game. Now, that happened a few seasons back where the Giants and the Redskins both wound up tied at the end of the season. The Giants had the game at home. They had it at the Polo Grounds. Home field advantage, this, that, and the other thing. And the Redskins wound up winning 28-0. So, it is what it is. That became a moot point when the New York's 31-0 win in front of a 60,337 at the Polo Grounds, more than the 58,346 that went there for the championship game a week later. So it came right down to the end. I mean, if the Redskins beat the Giants, they would have been both tied at 6-4-1, and it would have forced a championship game. But it was what it was. And I said, then you got the Bears beat the Giants 24-14 at the Polo Grounds on December 15th, 1946. Sid Luckman was the passing leader at 1,826 yards passing. Bill Dudley led the league in rushing, 604 yards, and Jim Benton led the league in receiving like he did the year before, but the year before he had over 1,000 yards receiving. But this year he had 981 yards receiving. The Joseph F. Carr Trophy, the most valuable player, went to Bill Dudley, the halfback of Pittsburgh. And then we have coaching changes here. Let's see. Chicago Bears George Halas returned after serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II. In his place since the middle of the 1942 season, Hunk Anderson and Luke Johnses served as co-coaches of the Bears. Chicago Cardinals Phil Handler was replaced by Jimmy Kinselman. Pittsburgh Steelers Jim Leonard was replaced by Jock Sutherland, and Washington Redskins Bill DeGroot was replaced by Turk Edwards. Stadium changes. The relocated Los Angeles Rams moved from Cleveland's League Park to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. I think it held a lot. I'll tell you what, they're going to put a lot of people in those stands there. And then we got the championship game. Now, there's a little interesting here, a little bribery scandal kind of going on here. The 1946 NFL Championship game was the 14th annual championship game of the National Football League, played on December 15th at the Polo Grounds in New York City, with a record-breaking attendance of 58,346. Nice-sized crowd. The game matched The New York Giants 7-3-1, champions of the Eastern Division against the Western Division champion Chicago Bears, who were 8-2-1. The Giants had won the regular season game 14-0 at the Polo Grounds 7 weeks earlier on October 27th. So they won 14-0. They went home. So we figured they got a good shot at it, but it was just not meant to be. But the Bears were 7 to 10-point favorites, and they covered. They won by 10 points. This was the fifth and final NFL championship game played at the Polo Grounds, because the next time the Giants went to the championship game and they played at home was in 1956. It was at Yankee Stadium. And it was the fourth of 6 meetings between the Bears and the Giants in the title game. The Giants and the Bears would play 2 more times. 1956, the Giants would beat the Bears 47-7. Then in 1963 at Chicago's Wrigley Field, the Bears would beat the Giants 14-10. Then we have, let's see, tied after 3 quarters, Chicago won 24-14 for its 7th NFL title and their 5th victory in 8 NFL championship game appearances. The attendance record stood for another 9 years until the 1955 title game in Los Angeles. We have the bribery scandal. Very interesting here. The day before the game, 2 players for the Giants, Frankie Filchak and Merle Hapes, had been accused of taking bribes to fix the game from Alvin Paris. Mayor William O'Dwyer had Jack Mara, Wellington Mara, and Bert Bell informed of the police evidence against the 2. Hours later, the 4th then met at Grace Mansion, and the mayor interviewed the players one at a time. The mayor interviewed them. Under questioning, Hapes admitted that he was offered a bribe, and Filchak denied being offered it. Several hours later, Paris was arrested and confessed to bribing the players. Hapes was suspended by Bell, and Filchak was allowed to play because he denied it. But Filchak actually did get bribed. During Paris's trial weeks later, Filchak admitting taking the bribe under oath. So he lied talking to the mayor, but under oath he admitted taking a bribe to throw the game. Absolutely unbelievable. Now you notice, I mean, the Bears took a 14-0 lead. Okay, one was an interception return. Then the Giants battled back. It was 14-7.5. Then they made it 14-14. Okay, in the third quarter, but then the Bears scored 10 points. Now, the Giants had 6 interceptions, and I think they lost 2 fumbles. So they had 8 turnovers. I mean, I think the Bears had 3. I mean, you're not going to win many games having 8 turnovers. I mean, much less against a powerful team like the Chicago Bears in a championship game, and 8 turnovers. Really got nobody to blame but themselves. This is nice. I mean, the player share. I mean, they had this is record breaking here. So I mean, for the time being, anyway. The gross receipts for the game, including radio and picture rights, was just under $283,000. Each player of the winning Bear team received $1,975, which was huge back then, $2,000. While the Giants lost, and they got almost $1,300 apiece. They did very, very well for themselves. Very, very well. All right, then we got here's Sid Luckman scoring pretty much the game-winning touchdown. They kicked the field goal after this, but Sid Luckman crossing the goal line to register the winning touchdown in the final period. That put the Bears up 21-14. He ran 19 yards for the score. Giants players are in the background there. All right. Then you got over here. If I can move it. All right, there we go. This Bear player's jumping up, trying to catch a pass, but all for naught. And here you have it was reverse. George Frank, Giants, away on a reverse that picked up 38 yards, the longest run from scrimmage of the day. So they did well, but you got let's say, I mean, it was pretty even. I mean, all in all, I mean, the Bears rushed for 100 yards. They got 144 yards passed, and the Giants passed for 128. They ran. So I mean, the Giants had 248 yards. The Bears had 245 yards. Right, but you'll see here, forward passes intercepted by. The Bears intercepted 6 passes. The Giants Giants picked off 2. But The Bears lost one fumble, so the Bears had 3 turnovers, and the Giants had 8. You're not going to win many games with a -5 turnover ratio. Sorry. All right. Just as big, but not quite as bad or as beautiful as in the other years, the Chicago Bears yesterday won the 7th National Football League championship when they defeated their ancient enemies, the New York Giants, 24-14 in the 1946 playoff game at the Polo Grounds. After the Giants had played their hearts out to overcome a 14-point lead, 14-point, deficit, the Bears gained in the first day. A fellow New Yorker, Sid Luckman, former Columbia star, turned their efforts to naught by running 19 yards on a bootleg play that clinched the victory. So I showed you that picture up there. Later, on a Frank Mesnicki, one in a galaxy of Bear backfield stars, added a 3 free insurance points by kicking a 26-yard field goal that wrapped up the game for keeps. Despite the ill effects of the bribery scandal that broke over their heads on the very eve of the all-important contest, injuries to 3 of the Giants' stars, and a couple of bad breaks in the early stages of the game, the Giants went down with colors flying. The crowd of 58,346, creating a new record for a playoff game, turned out for the contest, which was played in a cold afternoon on a good field. The former all-time high in the playoff attendance was 46,000, hung up on the Giant-Packer game here 2 years prior. Hapes made ineligible. The scandal deprived them of their services of their only other whole fullback, Merle Hapes, who had alternated with Bill Paschal in the past. He was declared ineligible to play pending the outcome of an investigation by Commissioner Burt Bell. So because of the bribery, the Giants lost one player right there. With Paschal in the hospital as a result of a broken jaw received in the Redskin game the week before, Coach Steve Owen had to pin his hopes on Frank Reagan, just recovered from an injury. But his services, too, were lost when he suffered a broken nose early in the second period. So he was out. The Giants suffered another serious loss when George Frank had to be removed from the lineup before the end of the first half with a shoulder separation. In the face of all of this hard luck, the Giants' key man, Frank Filchak, played almost the entire game, suffering from a broken nose. The absence of Hapes, Reagan, and Frank almost left them minus a punter, and it was a poor kick by Howie Livingston pressed into service at the end of the third quarter that started the Bears on their way to their winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. The score was tied at 14-14 at the junction. The Bears, having scored twice in the opening period, once on Luckman's toss to Kavanaugh and again on a 39-yard sprint by Dante Magnani after an interception of a Filchak pass, one of 6 the Giants had. The Giants had countered with a 38-yard touchdown toss from Filchak to Frank Liebel near the end of the opening quarter, and then another Filchak toss to Steve Filipowicz early in the third. Goes out of bounds. Livingston's kick went off the side of his foot and out of bounds after traveling only 16 yards. That was their backup punter the Giants had. So the Bears, chiefly on Luckman's passes, one to George McAfee and another to end Jim Keene, moved beyond midfield to the Giants' 42. Then Joe Osmowski broke away for 8 yards and a Bear first down on the Giants' 34. Luckman threw another pass, which was incomplete. The Giants, however, were guilty of unnecessary roughness. Moved the ball at 15 yards, right? And so it was first down on the 19. It was from there that Sid Luckman, faking beautifully, raced through the hole in the Giants' left side and went all the way. He was hit by 2 Giants on the 5, but kept his feet and went over for what turned out to be the clincher. Whatever chance the Giants had of pulling the game out of the fire that disappeared entirely 6 minutes later. When stalled on the 19, the Bears called on Frank Mesnicki to try a field goal. He was successful from the Giants' 26. The Giants made one dying gesture, but that was snuffed out when Luckman intercepted a Filchak pass on the Bear 30. It was marked the 6th time during the game that the alert Bears had hauled in one of Frank's tosses. So, I mean, you ain't winning no games with, 8 turnovers. I mean, they were -5 in the turnover margin. You're not winning any games. And it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, the guys are injured. They're injured. I mean, wish the guys didn't take a bribe. I mean, but as you can kind of plainly see, if they took a bribe, say $5,000, right? What would you back then? I mean, I get it. It's wrong. I guess maybe he can get, I don't know, kicked out of the league. I don't know exactly what could happen, but I mean, the guys are not making a lot of money per year. And even if they won the game, they would only receive $2,000. Well, maybe, the guy went up and bribed them, maybe offered them $5,000. Got to think, what would you do? $5,000. That's a good year's salary right there. So just to help maybe throw, help maybe throw a game. So I'm not saying it's right, not saying I would have done it, but you got to also look at where the guys were coming from too. I mean, $5,000 is probably, I don't know, probably a few $1,000s more than what they made for the entire season. So just to try to maybe throw a game. So it is what it is. And as I said, the injuries didn't help the Giants. The injuries didn't help. The 8 turnovers didn't help, and and all the injuries didn't help. It is what it is. But take your hats off to the Bears. They're a very good team, and once again, the Giants had another successful season. Unfortunately, this is the 8th championship game that the Giants went to since 1933, and unfortunately, they lost 6 out of the 8 games. So you see, 1946 for the New York Giants. What is it? I mean, they didn't win the championship. They had a lot of injuries. I mean, it is what it is. You can't do nothing about it. You can't change nothing. They had the bribery scandal going on. They had quite a few injuries now. I mean, on the other hand, if the Bears had all those injuries, right, maybe things would have turned out differently. But it is what it is. I mean, the Giants wound up in first place. They won the division. They went back to the championship game. They lost. But all in all, it was just another successful season. As I said now, the Giants, take a little step back. So from 1947 to 1955, they got some good football in there. They got some winning seasons in there, absolutely. But it's just between the Eagles starting to take a step up, okay, and the Browns coming in from there's another football league that the Browns joined. So from 1946, 47, 48, 49, okay, the Browns are in another football league. After 49, the league disbanded, okay, and some of the teams, a few of the teams entered the NFL, all right? The Browns were one of them, and the Browns were an absolutely phenomenal football team. So the Browns pretty much dominated the 50s. The Browns went to the championship games from 1950 to 1955, and they also went back to the championship game in 1957. So the Giants, all in all, it was a very good season for them in 1946. Didn't win the championship, but you can't win them all. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo!